Movieland Frontier Town once stood on the 1300 block of West Valley Boulevard in Colton, California. It operated from noon to 5, offering free admission on regular days and charging $1 on weekends. Visitors experienced the Old West daily in the shops and restaurants at the front of the park, while the movie lot in the back was occasionally used for filming. The nostalgic back lot featured an authentic Western street with a saloon, general store, blacksmith shop, newspaper and post office, and sheriff's station, complete with a jail. On Saturdays and Sundays, artisans demonstrated their crafts, while Frontier Town hosted stunt shows, simulated shootouts, and live country and western music. The park also offered rides on buggies, stagecoaches, trains, and ponies. In the 1960s, Colton piano dealer Vern Schafer conceived Movieland Frontier Town to house his antique collection and for filming purposes. Inspired by and with the help of his son Chuck, Vern later transformed the buildings into a tourist attraction with a revitalization in 1975. "I'm a piano man who spends all his time with the frontier town," he said. Vern owned a chain of 7 piano stores in Southern California. Vern designed the buildings based on structures he saw during his travels. "If I see a building I like, I copy it. I buy old barns and tear them down," he said. He used the lumber to build the stores that lined the dusty street. The town's legacy was also enhanced by the proximity of Morgan Earp's grave. Morgan was buried in Colton in 1882 after he died in Arizona. Colton is originally the land of the Tongva, Serrano, and Cahuilla people. It was then part of 2 large privately owned ranchos, the Jurupa and the San Bernardino ranchos. The southwest corner of Colton, known as Agua Manza, or Gentle Waters, was settled by New Mexico pioneers in 1842. The town itself was laid out by the Southern Pacific Railway in 1875 and named after Civil War General David Colton, who was also the railroad's vice president. Nicholas P. Earp, father of the infamous brothers, owned one of the first saloons in Colton, called the Gem. Wyatt Earp once applied to operate a gambling hall in Colton but was denied. The Earp family settled in Colton in 1877, with Nicholas elected town recorder in 1887. That same year, Virgil Earp became Colton's first marshal and lived with his wife Allie at 528 West H Street, now a private residence. Initially, the Earp family moved to Colton from their home in Pella, Iowa, after Nicholas remembered passing through San Bernardino on his way home from prospecting. The Earps reached San Bernardino on December 17, 1864, and camped just east of current Sierra Way and Court Street. They tried farming, but the boys refused the work and eventually settled at the corner of Mount Vernon and I Street. After the gunfight at the OK Corral, Morgan was murdered and his body was returned to his parents, accompanied by his brothers. In the following years, Virgil was elected as the first city marshal in Colton, despite his wounded arm from the Tombstone conflict. Nicholas continued serving alongside him as justice of the peace. Meanwhile, Jim returned to town as a driver before opening the Club Exchange Saloon with a partner, and Wyatt would occasionally visit his family. Morgan Earp was laid to rest in Hermosa Cemetery, just north of Movieland Frontier Town. A short distance away, the parking now would be full of cars unloaded, and visitors stepped back in time to what some would call the mild Wild West. Visible from the 10 freeway, the site was advertised in travel brochures and became a stop for many tourists driving across the desert. In 1976, the San Bernardino Sun reported that Vern waited for Hollywood to call while the town served tourists. Some movies and shows were filmed there, including a Steve Martin special and The Rifleman. In an article dated September 1980, Vern planned to sell his piano business to focus on expanding Movieland. However, the deal fell through, and Vern ultimately decided not to abandon the piano business. Juggling both ventures affected their outcomes, and at the time he said the frontier town had a bright future, mentioning a bus line directed to the town with improvements including a new Spanish-themed street. By August, Vern, in an interview at Kitty's Steakhouse, boasted about his vested interests while setting his boots on the table. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the brass plates covering the toe and heel. "This tells you I'm serious. I've never worn cowboy boots in my life." Vern sold off $200,000 worth of antiques and completed the sale of his piano business. He purchased the back lot for his expansion, calling it the next Knott's Berry Farm without the rides. The push also came from his memories of Chuck, who had recently been killed in a motorcycle accident. His vision included a new rodeo around 1979 with the Chamber of Commerce as its first sponsor. However, Jan Vickers, a lead member of the Chamber of Commerce, complained about the profit loss and decided to withdraw support. Community leader Wes Hayden then took it upon himself to direct the event. The second annual Colton Western Days at Frontier Town marked an 8-day event in late September 1980, featuring a 2-day rodeo and gymkhana horse show by the Raish Canyon Riders. There was a rodeo queen contest, but with only one participant, they extended the deadline and offered further tryouts to anyone in the Inland Empire. Under Wes Hayden's leadership and without the Chamber of Commerce, the rodeos became a community and financial success. Frontier Town also became a home for traveling theater and music acts. The Montana City Players passed the hat around in their vaudeville productions and pop music concerts, which brought new generations to the town. The chapel became a prominent place to worship, hosting the Rainbow Country Gospel concerts on Sundays and historical-themed weddings, often utilized by the staff and stunt techs. Frank McKinley and his wife, Wendy, even left the chapel in a hot air balloon. By 1985, newspapers reported 2 categories of rodeo queens, senior and junior, and a Miss Congeniality award, showing the growth of the ceremonies. All the young ladies were established horse riders and won medals in marksmanship. The annual celebration brought out the community in large numbers, with proceeds funding city agencies and organizations. In 1993, Joe Nazarowski, known as Mayor Nasty, took over managing the town and gave it a good kick in the pants. The shops and restaurants now included a museum beside it, and those searching for tack could visit the Horse Connection. A blacksmith shop was at work, and 5 gunfighter teams were performing. They were called the Misfits, the Dakota Cowboys, Cimarron Ridge, Frontier Legends, and Old Town Temecula. Dennis Whitehawk of the Northern Cheyenne and Oglala Dakota nations demonstrated porcupine quill work, while across from the Teton Trading Post was the Nickelodeon, a saloon known for its pizza. A few doors down was Kelly's Western Dance Hall, a non-alcoholic saloon with live country bands and dance lessons. The Colton Rib and Steak Company was a prominent fixture in town. Other notable businesses included Crockett House, Watkins General Store, Frontier Ice Cream Parlor, Magic Hat, and Diamond S Cafe, among others. Times grew more arduous and businesses had to pivot. Frontier Town looked to welcome a new audience with metal and alternative acts featured at Kelly's Place, along with disco. The Nickelodeon sponsored car shows with festivities to help save Colton landmarks. Sunset Carson and producer Jerry Whittington were developing a TV series on the set of Frontier Town, interviewing B-Western stars. In the latter half of the 90s, Stores suffered from the economy, and only 7 businesses were left. Acting Marshal Tim Shelley joked, "I'm a weekend marshal, that's when the crowds are the biggest." During this time, he also served as a security guard. "Kids have to have heroes, someone to look up to," he said. "When they think of the Old West, they think of heroic times." Vern's business was wavering, and he decided to sell Frontier Town to the lead member of the Colton Chamber of Commerce, Jan Vickers, who worked for a family business called L.J. Snow Ford Car Dealership. She seized 5.5 acres, and at first Vickers said she would incorporate the town into the car sales experience, but by January of 1998 opted to demolish the park and sell the land. This was likely due to Vickers losing a lawsuit with the city over unfiled taxes for the car dealership. Without the money to invest or the power to control the town's future, the merchants had no choice but to let the city cease improvements, providing Vickers more incentive to dismantle it. Larry Lee of Larry's Smokehouse said, "There's a lot I'd like to do, but I can't." It also did not help that road constructions had signs nearby that incorrectly implied that town's shops were closed. Soon the Colton City Council approved its change of plans. Vickers assured tenants that they were given notice, and some tried to negotiate out of it, but Vickers' decision would stay the same. The town was removed and sat empty. Vickers died in 2007, and beloved Vern Schafer died on December 8, 2014, at the age of 85. Though what is left is like a grave, many visitors still share vivid memories of their favorite ghost town that served the community and they called their second home. This has been Biographies of the West. My name is Lorin Morgan-Richards. Thanks for watching.